Thanks for tuning in, guys. You're listening to Ace Comicals. I'm Greg Driver. I'm joined by Rahul Jani and Leon Everett. Let's go! Well, I was talking earlier about getting Korean food, and I didn't get Korean food in the end. I ended up buying pizza because I'd already taken money out and kind of committed to the fact that I was going to get takeout tonight for dinner. But here I am, full of pizza, and this is Ace Comicals, episode number 71. Slightly disappointed that I didn't get Korean food and had to settle for pizza. It was like anger pizza. It's like me and Sophie were like walking home and we were like, so what do we do? The Korean place is closed. We got there and it was shut and kind of like dropped to our knees, and it started raining in a really localized spot. And then... And then we were like walking home, deciding what to do. It was like, well, look, I've already got money out now. I've committed to buying takeout. I'm not going to cook anything. It's like pizza, okay, pizza.
How do you angry eat a pizza? Like from the center outwards?
I mean, like
or like you eat crust first.
You don't angrily eat the pizza. It's just pizza that's ordered in anger because you couldn't get the thing you actually wanted.
Right.
Well, and fine, I'll eat this pizza.
Yeah, I'm going to enjoy this, come hell or high water, and I'm going to feel really full afterwards, and it's going to be really satisfying, but it's not what I wanted.
I was jealous of your Korean meal as well. I thought you had it.
Yeah, I was living vicariously through you. I was hoping you'd get those wings.
No, I didn't. I didn't get them. That's karma for me telling you I was going to be eating Korean food.
That's why you should keep it to yourself, man.
Yes, but
what
now...
What did you get on your pizza?
What did I get? I got spicy sausage. And I go to a place called Bagos Pizza in Leicester. I don't go to Domino's because you don't go to Domino's if there's another pizza place. You don't.
Unless Domino's end up sponsoring us one episode.
Yeah. At which point, yeah, Ace Comicals loves Domino's. Put us on your boxes. No. Please sponsor us. Please, sir. No.
I'd love a Domino's sponsor.
Oh, yeah, that'd be wicked, wouldn't it? But... we are not sponsored by Domino's. We are Ace Comicals, and this is episode number 71. And bunch of comics to talk about as usual. Should we just get straight into it and start with the latest Boom Comics title, which is Something is Killing the Children? And that's not a statement, you know, because Something is Killing the Children is the name of the comic. I'm not saying something's killing the children.
And it's not a question either.
Yeah.
something is killing the children.
Well, yeah, something is killing the children in this book. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dig you out a blurb for Something's Killing the Children. So, GLAAD award-winning writer James Tynion IV, who I know from his Batman stuff, teams with artist Dell'Edera of Briggsland for an all-new limited series about staring into the abyss to find your worst fears staring back. When the children of Archer's Peak begin to go missing, everything seems hopeless. Most children never return. But the ones that do have terrible stories, impossible stories of terrifying creatures that live in the shadows. Their only hope of finding and eliminating the threat is the arrival of a mysterious stranger, one who believes the children will claim to see what they can see. Her name is Erica Slaughter. She kills monsters. And that is all she does, and she bears the cost because it must be done. So, I mean, like, are you afraid of the dark? Because you probably should be. Is the vibe I got from this comic, because, like, it's laced with, like, bleak and unrelenting and uneasy, like, atmosphere, like, all the way through the whole thing. I mean, well, you know what, Leon, what did you make of this?
Well, yeah, it has this energy of something simmering in the background, and there's this foreboding sense of dread even from the start. I think that the cold open, as I call it, before the big splash of the title comes up, is amazing. It looks great to begin with. The art is really cool. The of all these different blues to sort of to convey this late sleepover type vibe, and they're playing a game of truth or dare. And when you hear the initial story that one of our main characters starts telling his friends, it's really effective in sort of building this dread just from the words, just from what he's saying. And it's a really nice sort of turnaround when we actually see what the real horror of that evening was. And the way it just... You get this... And I say this all the time because, I mean, I'm a film and TV guy, so this is the time to take your shot. But it does have the feeling of a pilot of like a sort of science fiction-y horror detective show, in the sense that, and this is before the splash. I'm not going to give too many details, but the way how it goes from the sleepover and the story to this harshly coloured interrogation room to boom, something is killing the children it had me at that point, and I was like, what the hell is this book about? I want to see more of it.
Yeah, I mean, like, for me, it had like an anime vibe. It felt like a very anime story in that sense, like the kind of thing I would expect from watching episode 1 of an anime, or something that came straight to DVD. You know, it had that real that kind of that vibe about it, and it felt very animated when I was reading it, and it's just It was dark and expressionistic and laced with fear and sadness and sketch-like, and just, I mean, I don't usually like things that are like overly dour, but this just like, it was dour in the right way, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, it didn't feel dour in or like in a sort of grim dark way. It felt more like that sort of grey you get from like the beginning of like some sort of crime procedural, but with that extra feeling of dread. But I didn't really get like a depressive feeling amongst it, despite some of the pages and panels that happen. It was more a mystery that I got from it, because the town doesn't seem like this either overly suburbial or just grey blocky place. It feels like what a place that is meant to be safe, and sort of in the tradition of like the horror going back for a while. These ones where they, especially to do with children as well, when it's say like It, which is back in the zeitgeist now because of the second part of the movie coming out. You have this thing of like, this place is meant to be safe. This is where we go to school and work, but something is killing children, and this is meant to be the park where your kids play. This is meant to be the school, but like something's out there killing children, and nobody knows what to do about it. I got more of that type of vibe where things are going to hell, and people are just coping as best as they can.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is something like there are some really cool character designs in this, and I really did enjoy the artwork. It's like this really loose lines, like, and sketch like, and really expressionistic in the way that it's kind of feels painted, and like you are viewing this come together on the page, like you're actually seeing it kind of like fold together, like these lines and stuff, and maybe you are seeing this through I don't know, the eyes of a frightened child, I guess, especially with like the way some of it is, and like with like you were saying with the blues and the blacks, with the darkness, and the way nighttime's illustrated in this book, and the way we see when the creature is finally revealed, or at least this creature is finally revealed, because I get the impression that this badass protagonist that we've got here, this monster hunter, Erica Slaughter, she kind of like goes from town to town solving this problem on behalf of children around the country.
Yeah, we do get that vibe, and it's funny because she's on the cover, or like we get the profile of a blonde with a machete. But I totally forgot about that because I was just into the book. So then when a blonde badass just walks out of these woods, I was like, oh, cool. Because like, her design's really cool, where she's like wearing like this sort of It's not a bandana. What do they call it when you wear it over your face?
Still a bandana, I think.
I guess so. Yeah, and it's got the teeth on it.
Yeah.
And she's covered with blood sprays and stuff. What it gave me was like an R-rated I Kill Giants vibe.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. Because I would love to see that story, and I think I'm going to see that story. Because I Kill Giants is awesome. And I like the idea of like she grew up and she continued to kill giants.
Yeah,
and
I mean
it's
it's immersive, and the pages just kind of like draw you in, and you really do get put in this world, and you really do like the feeling in the pit of my stomach that I get, the dread, because I actually felt dread reading this. I think that was what I was trying to describe to you. It's like, I want to retract what I said about dour, because it's not dour, it's dread, I think. I don't know, how do I... Dread? Yeah, I'll go with dread.
That sounds about right.
But yeah, I mean, like, it was... It was just fantastic for that, and for, for sowing that. And I think this is going to be a good one for reading at this time of year as well, around this kind of, like, lead up to Halloween. It's autumn. These are the kind of stories you want now. I mean, I want these stories all year round, but these are the kind of stories you want now, right? And it's just like the design of the creature in this, and the designs of the straight out of the dark recesses of the imagination of your inner child, I think, is the best way I can describe it. Because if I was going to be scared of some kind of shadow monster when I was a kid, if I was going to wake up in the middle of the night, for example, when you wake up and you've got like a pile of something in the corner of your room when you're a kid, and you turn that pile of something into something else entirely because your imagination is working overtime. Like, that is what this is. Like, that is, and the way it's described and the way it's done, like the way this kid tells the story in the beginning of the book as well. I mean, that could easily... I mean, when he's telling the ghost story, the scary stories to his friends at the sleepover, I mean, that's easily something that I would have done as a kid anyway, like looked out of the window and thought I saw something, because I had that kind of imagination where I would turn shadows into ethereal beasts and whatever. And, like, waking up in the night and seeing things and seeing shadows and then turning them into something else in your mind's eye. And then, like, when I see these pages and I see the monster design and I see the play of the light and shadow and the way they do nighttime in this book, like with the colouring and the way the artwork is anyway, with its loose lines and a lot of lines, this like painted quality that it has, like almost like where it's painted and the brush goes dry at points, and it's just kind of like that, to me, is exactly playing on that. It's playing on that psychology of when you're a kid and you see a shadow and you make something out of the shadow. And I mean, like, the other thing that I have to say about this as well is I just want to point out that the thing I will say about Boom single issues right now is that they put some really good production into the actual physical copy. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but if you ever pick up a Boom single issue, like, it's always got like a really nice, like, stock, almost stock card cover on a lot of them, and it's always like a really nice quality print and everything else, and they just feel so much better than other single issues do sometimes. And I think the content matches a lot of the time as well, because, like, especially with this one, with Something is Killing the Child, I think this is great. I'm into this and I want to see more, and I want to see where this goes.
Yeah, because I'll just shout. I think that two things that I think are really cool in this, and I'll try to talk about them as vaguely as possible, is that there is a page where it is the one of the lead characters, the guy who was telling the story, and he's talking with his principal, and there's just something so informal and irreverent about it. Because it gave me a bit Rick vibes, especially the way the characters look. Yeah. Where it was Roundtree playing the principal and Joseph Gordon-Levitt playing the sort of teenage gumshoe, and he was in like a long coat and like similar type of colours and glasses, if I remember correctly. And so it gave me those flashes, but also just the way how he's just saying, "Oh, you should," talking about how the matter should have been resolved in a very unteachable way, because like he's fairly young and like he's having to deal with this strange phenomena that is happening in his town, and you can tell it's wearing on him, and I love that. But it does give a deeper sense of how this affects the town itself. Because a lot of these things, sometimes we're so focused on the main characters, we don't really get to step back and breathe and see how this affects the community, and see how everybody who isn't privy to all the information that the lead characters often are, how they're reacting to everything. And I think that they do a good job with this in these opening pages of this first issue. I feel like they do make things have a weight and have a cost that isn't just the fact that these kids have been killed, but also the collateral damage from that.
And there's like a cold detachment throughout the whole thing as well. I don't know if you picked up on that. Like everything, like the cold detachment that the protagonist has to have in order to do her job. Because I guess she can't get too attached to people and things like that, having to move around too much. And it just, this feeling, this like cold detachment through the whole thing, and then the cold colours that are used as well in the palette and everything else.
Yeah, and I feel like she's seen stuff, because I hadn't read the blurb before I read, so that blurb told me way more than I even understood from her from this first issue. Yeah. Because I'm sure they don't give a name, and I only picked up just the feel of of her going from town to town.
Oh,
just from
spoilers.
Her design and her and the few sequences we have with her before she comes to this town. But like, I had no idea what the name was and stuff. So I think it's effective without that knowledge anyway. Because I find this a lot with some comics where the preview chatter and blurb stuff is talking because they've read 4 issues or something like that. And some of the artwork, you'll be like, the variant covers will include stuff, and you're like, what the hell's that? And you don't see that until like issue 5. And I think here, going in blind worked pretty well. Yeah,
that works. And I kind of get that myself. So, I mean, Ray, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I've got like things I can drop in based on what you guys are saying, like echoing a lot of what Leon said. Going back to the beginning, like that cold open is one of the best cold open prologues I've seen in a comic for ages. Like, it's a really confident start, and the thing you were saying about the headmaster, like the really great sensitive head teacher, like there's something endearingly blunt about the conversation he has with the kid. It's like he's clearly in over his head and not afraid to voice his emotions, and like, he's not quite yet learned the processes needed by somebody in his position. He's like more emotionally overcome by what's happening, and he's, you know, trying to deal with it the best he can, like you said. The itself, like, we haven't talked about the form of it very much. Like, the thing I was feeling is how disorienting and dislocating it is. So like we were talking about with the cold open, like there's this dislocating cuts between 2 different scenes, and I like how that whole opening is framed, because like, if you look at it again, you'll see that like it's supposed to be in his parents' house when his parents aren't around, but like, if you look at the size of the room, and like this massive brick pillar in the middle of the room that makes no sense if you really think about it, there's all these little touches that make it feel otherworldly and like sinister. And then as you go on, like, what else was I going to say? So, like, the really disconcerting panel layouts, which switch between ordered chaos, where all the panels align with each other quite neatly, but not formally, where some, meet the edge of the page, but some don't, and some are separated by gutters, but some are butting against each other, and it switches between that ordered chaos to, like, really rigid 6-panel rectangles, which then further spill out into, like, widely buffeted stamps, like, spread across the page. And it does all these interesting tricks to just constantly keep you on your toes, and I really enjoyed that. And then just generally the artwork. I like how it devolves into this terrifyingly smeary violence. It's almost like it's pasted into these claustrophobic thin panels. I'm quite taken with it. Like, saying what you guys said, I think it's a really strong number one, but it's hard to know where it's going. And again, like I say with a lot of these issue ones, I think I want to see where the rest of it takes it. I think I need more of it before I can make my mind up.
Yeah, so that is Something is Killing the Children, and that is on Boom. So that's Boom Studios published that, and your creative team on that one is written by James Tynion IV, illustrated by Werther Dell'Edera, coloured by Michael Muerto, and lettered by Andwell Design. And you can pick that up. That's on shelves now, and it is a great little comic and a great number one, as you guys have both said, and it is something that I would recommend, especially for this time of year. It's the kind of thing that you want to read at night at this time of year. And, so moving on from there, it is going to be... I just wanted to bring up a couple of things here that I picked up. So a couple of Marvel comics. I got Marvel Comics 1000, and I got Marvel Monsters number 1. Now, we'll start with Marvel Comics 1000. So... this is kind of like a celebration of 80 years of Marvel history, like a lot of things that have been happening this year. And it features like literally everyone. Like, each page is a single comic by a different creative team, and it's just a really good single issue piece. And there's some great single pages in here celebrating certain characters, specific milestones or markers along the Marvel timeline in Marvel history. And these are printed at the top corner of like each page. Like, you get like a little bit at the top of the page that will say, a year, and then whatever happened in that year that was big in Marvel, like a costume change for a character or something like that kind of thing. And there's like a unifying tale that is woven in between this on several pages throughout, and this is the secret of the Eternity Mask, which is on these pages. It's woven with that, and it's a fun read. The Eternity Mask is supposedly this mask that is a piece of Eternity himself, or themselves, from the Marvel Universe, that puts anybody who wears it on equal footing with their opponent, I think is the idea. And it's like this mask's journey through the Marvel Universe, through time, through the hands of several characters within the Marvel Universe, and things like that. And some of my favourite artists and writers actually are featured in here, and I'd recommend picking it up because I mean, like, I say some of my favourite writers and artists, I mean, like, everyone's favourite writers and artists are in this, because I'm pretty sure, like, because the creative team on this is absolutely huge. Like, I can't read them all out. It's just ridiculous. Like, I think everybody who's ever coloured a panel for Marvel has got something to do with this book. But it's like, everybody who's written, coloured, drawn, like, a lot of people that have worked for, like, an awful lot of people that work for Marvel have had something to do with this. And just give you some idea of the scale of it. And, like, I'd recommend picking it up because it's a complete party, and it's like a birthday party that you're invited to. Like, that's seriously how I describe it to you. You like walk into a room full of some of your favourite creators, your favourite colourist, your favourite artist, your favourite writer, your favourite letterer, and like you just like you just pour a drink and just take in the mood, and that's kind of how it is. And I have a few choice pages from this that I really enjoyed. There's a page called The Choice, and this one is a Silver Surfer page. And the creative team on this one is Charles Soule is the writer. Steve McNiven is the artist after Mobius. So he's doing this in Mobius's style. And the letterer is VC's Corey Petty. And it's just a really cool little page. It's kind of like the Silver Surfer just like having a kind of like an existential thinking moment, basically. It's only a short little one page comic, but it's really great. And I love the artwork in it and the way it's done. I love that it's modelled after Mobius, as kind of like a tribute to some of the greatest Silver Surfer comics ever, like the Parable comics, Silver Surfer Parable, which was Mobius and Stan Lee, which I think are some of the most celebrated Silver Surfer books. Other pages in here that I really enjoyed there's one called Armor Disassemble, which is an Iron Man page. And this one's really interesting. This one is Chip Zdarsky and VC's Joe Caramagna. And it's Iron Man. It's how many panels? 1, 2, 3, 4, 16 panels. And it's like Iron Man's mask coming off, and underneath is the next mask, like the evolution of Iron Man's armor. And the armor is, you go through the armor each time the armor opens, and there's the next mask underneath, and that one opens. And you keep going till you get to Tony Stark's face, and then Tony Stark's face just splits the same way his armor would, and then it's just black. So, it's kind of like an exercise in sequential art and a celebration of Iron Man in that way. And I think it's great. I think it's a great celebration of the character, and I just love the way it goes through in stages, and you've got like this kind of like stages of the armor coming off, and underneath revealing another piece, kind of like a Russian doll, but it's Iron Man helmets, if that makes sense. It's a really cool page. After that, there's one called The Farmer, which is a Galactus story. That one is Galactus talking about how he's more than just the destroyer of worlds, is basically what he's trying to say. He's trying to say that he's actually, he's actually doing some good. There's another one, Little Blackagar in Slumberland, which is really nicely drawn, and that is about the Inhumans. Yeah, there's just some really cool content in here, and do you think that this book works for people who are, say, coming off the movies, or just like never read a Marvel book and just see some of these heroes that they recognize? I'd say so. I'd say you could read it in that way. I'd say you could pick it up and just go through it and just get like a kind of like a little primer or an idea on like who these guys are and whatever else, because I think that's what it's about, right? That's what it's for. It's a celebration of Marvel, and if you enjoy the Marvel movies, then come celebrate, buy the book, enjoy it. That's precisely what it's about. So yeah, it doesn't. You don't have to know everything about Marvel Comics in order to pick this up and read it. I would say no, not at all. Double goes for the next one I'm going to talk about, which is Marvel Monsters #1, which is basically just a single issue of. There's a little bit of a story in there, and basically, Kid Kaiju finds a book that is a reference book for most of the monsters in the Marvel universe. It's kind of like a recipe for how to create these things and like their biology, basically. So you've got like the majority of this book is one page is a picture of the monster, and the second page is a diagram of the monster done in the style of like an old Kaiju reference book or Kaiju reference comic or whatever, with like the Japanese text and everything, and then like the breakdown of the creature with like, here's a diagram of the creature and this is what it looks like inside, this is what his bones look like, and whatever else. Like a little bit about their powers, their height, their weight, and stuff like that. And there's just some really nice single page artwork in this, and that's primarily my reason for picking it up. Like there's a great James Stokoe page with James Stokoe gets to draw Fing Fang Foom, and it's absolutely fantastic. I love it. And there's just some other just fantastic stuff in here. I mean, Mike Allred does a page in here as well, and it's just great. But I mean, that's kind of like an accompaniment to Marvel Comics 1000, if you get me. Like I bought the two together, and they're just both a celebration of everything that Marvel has, and they're just great for that. Moving on from there. There was this thing that I got sent. Basically, I got sent a free trade. So I got sent an email by a guy called Joe Aubrey, and it was about this thing that he was working on, and he asked me if I wanted a free book, and I was like, yeah, sure. And it's this thing that they were working on called Space Bastards. Now, it's like a hardcover created by Joe Aubrey, and Derek Robertson worked on it as well. Derek Robertson being the artist from The Boys and Transmetropolitan. He did some of the art for this, and the official blurb off the website. So What's this book about? Cutthroat capitalism in space. Transporting packages between planets is hard. That is, until Postmaster General Roy Sharpton invented the new free enterprise model for the Intergalactic Postal Service. The rules are simple. Whoever delivers the package gets the cash, and postal workers can use any means necessary to steal that package and deliver it themselves. The more times a package transfers hands, the more fees stack up. The tougher the delivery, the higher the reward. Do you work a job, or does your job work you? Has your so-called career made you dead inside? Well, the Intergalactic Postal Service wants you. Ex-convict, ex-real estate agent, total paranoid schizophrenic, it doesn't matter. Sure, this job is dangerous, but you'll be your own boss. Rake in the cash and feel truly alive again. So the idea of this is, it's this like hyper-violent Intergalactic Postal Service where, like, once a parcel is in play, you've got a bunch of these kind of like bounty hunter come postman types that are killing each other in order to deliver this parcel. Now, this first trade here, like you say, the art's by Derek Robertson in the majority of it, and I can see what this thing's going for. Like, I get these like pretty heavy, like early Vertigo, old school 2000, like, you know, old 2000 AD and old school early Vertigo influences like come out of this, like these pretty heavy. It's hard not to notice that, because that's kind of like what inspired it. I mean, you can see it. It's hyper violent, and I can see why this is going to be a lot of people's thing. It carries the spirit of the comics that so clearly inspired it. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed, you know, I could see that it was kind of cool in an old school way, if that's your thing. I enjoyed reading it, and it was a bit of a blast and a bit of a laugh and a bit of escapism. And, you know, it's fun, it's funny, it's got like this kind of like brash edge to it and everything else. And it would scratch that itch if you're looking for something along those lines. Like if you like your comics like The Boys and you like your old school 2000 AD, your old school Vertigo, then this is for you. This is the sort of like edgy, bolshy sci-fi comic that you would go for and you would love. Now, yeah, this is a Kickstarter thing, and from what I can tell, looking at the Kickstarter, it's been completely funded, so it should be on its way. Like, if you pre-order it, I think the estimated delivery is October 2019. So should be out in around October if you pre-order it, and if you sign up on the website, and when the pre-orders are available, they let you know. And then if you pre-order it, you should be receiving it around October, I believe, looking at this. And it's quite nice production on the hardcover as well. It's not a bad book. Like, the pages are like almost card. So it's like these really nice thick pages. It's like really good quality. Yeah, so the idea is that you sign up and you get the 4 quarterly books. And it's not just, I mean, like, there's other artists on here that have worked on it, that have worked on other stuff, like, big names like Simon Beasley, who you'd know from Lobo, Hellblazer, the heavy metal stuff, Colin McNeil, Clint Langley, Boo Cook. So all these guys that you'll know from comics that have clearly inspired this book anyway. So, you know, like the Judge Dredds, the Transmetropolitans, that kind of thing. And yeah, that's just like, it's just a pretty cool thing to have if that's what you're into, if you like these old kind of like 90s Vertigo-y type stuff, then this is your thing. And yeah, you just sign up to the website. I think you get access to a social media site as well, which is also kind of like a game where you can be one of the postal service, and you can steal packages from each other and things like that, and you can earn credits and that kind of thing. And yeah, it's just a bit of fun, bit of sci-fi escapism for you. And yeah, I can see its virtues, and I can say that it is kind of cool in that kind of old school way. I mean, it wasn't 100% my jam, because things like this, for me, I mean, yes, I enjoy this kind of stuff, but at the same time, sometimes it can be pretty hit and miss. But I mean, if you are into your hard sci-fi stuff, your gritty comics, then your gritty sci-fi comics, then I guess this is 100% for you. I like my gritty sci-fi, but I don't know, this just didn't totally scratch the itch for me, but that's just me. I think that's my personal opinion. Kind of reminded me a little bit of another comic we've talked about on here, actually, Leon. Sharky the Bounty Hunter. You were, I think you read that as well, didn't you? Did you read this one? Because I know I talked about it on a previous episode, and I can't remember if we both read it.
Yeah, I don't have memory of it.
It's the Mark Miller one with the purple dude. I called him Thanos Killminster.
I don't believe I read that.
Yeah, it's the episode's called Thanos Killminster, actually, I think, as well. But yeah, maybe I'm wrong then. But Sharky the Bounty, it's that kind of vibe that I got from it. And it's that kind of thing, and it's pretty cool, and it's worth a look if that's your thing. Yeah. So that is Space Bastards, and if I can get you the full team for this, because it's quite a... So it's Eric Peterson and Joe Aubrey written it, and Derek Robinson has done art on it. You've got Colin McNeil, Clint Langley, Simon Beasley, Boo Cook. It's a whole list of people worked on this thing, because I think they do like a... So you've got like the main story, and then each time it's like the writer's working with a different artist. That's the idea I get from it, and there's also some one-shots woven in throughout. So
really,
yeah,
sounds meaty.
Yeah, so it's pretty good. I mean, the first book that I've got is a pretty fat trade. It's a hardback. It's big, and it's a pretty hefty trade. So there's a lot of material in it, and that's just the first book. And a funny story actually, because this is actually a book about an intergalactic postal service. Well, I can only imagine what happened to this book on its way to me, because I was like, I replied to the guys. I'm like, yeah, sure, send me one. I'll read it and see what. And so Joe Aubrey then he must have posted it, but then like replied to me. Asking if I'd received it yet, and I said no. And then this went on for a couple of weeks. Like Joe Aubrey just been like, "Have you received it? No. Have you received it? No." Like maybe almost a month actually, and then all of a sudden, package received. It arrived like eventually, and I think it might have got lost in the post on the way. But it just struck me. It's kind of ironic that it's a story about the postal service or an intergalactic postal service, and then the postal service, being the postal service,
it's an ARG,
fucked it up. Yeah. Basically, I lived it. Yeah, I mean, I wonder how many postmen killed each other to get it to me, and how much Joe Aubrey got charged in the end for sending that. It's just, but yeah, there we go. So that is Space Bastards, and you can go to spacebastards.com to find out more, which is the official website. There's also the Kickstarter, so if you can find it on the Kickstarter site, and you can have a look at some of the rewards that are no longer available. Looking at this, I don't think you can pledge any more money to it because I think it made its goal. But there's like a trailer video on there and stuff, and yeah, more information available there. And I believe October is what you're looking at for to receive the book. So yeah, you'd be looking at October 2019. But yeah, that is Space Bastards, and that is a volume 1, and I was sent a hardcover of it. And yeah, it's pretty nice hardcover, so it's worth it if you like your old kind of like Vertigo type stuff, that kind of stuff. That's pretty much what it is. And some of the art in it's really nice actually. I mean, like there's some art by some of the other guest artists on there that it's really cool, and it's really expressive, and it's really like it's really of that time, and it's really like looking at a time capsule actually. And it's interesting that it's nice to see that spirit is, the spirit of those comics continues, and people make things like that still. I guess in a nostalgic kind of way for me, like remembering when I would look at comics like Preacher and whatever on the shelves, and think, those are kind of cool when I was younger, seeing them on the shelves and things as a teenager and whatever. And then it's kind of like nostalgic for me to see that things like this are still getting made, I guess. In the style of, or in the I haven't got the word for it right now. I haven't got a lot of words this evening, including the credits for a page called The Farmer in the Marvel Comics 1000, which I'm not going to let myself live down, and you guys shouldn't let me live it down either.
I think you've just been sucked into some horrific side dimension.
Yeah, that's how it feels. But yeah, so that leads us up nicely to...
Everything, were we not?
I thought we already had talked about everything, Leon.
Did we?
Well, we talked about everything else. No, yeah. So there's a comic called Everything that I read, which is Burger Book's title. And it's, well, where do I start with this? Yeah, where do I start with this? Yeah.
I think, Greg, what is this comic about? Like, just tell us, because I'm super lost.
This comic is about...
Give the dirty pitch. Give the dirty pitch.
I will give you the dirty pitch. And when I say the dirty pitch, I mean I'm giving you the blurb, like I do. Everything is a gleaming new mega department store which arrives to extraordinary thrill and rapidly escalates to inexplicable mania in the small town of Holland, Michigan. When random hellish fires and unshakable psychic disturbances start to overtake the community, a few like depressive out-of-towner Laurie and a suspicious local named Rick begin to suspect everything in its catalogue perfect manager Shirley. Who or what exactly is in charge here, and what insidious plans are in store? From Christopher Cantwell, acclaimed writer of She Could Fly and co-creator of AMC's *Halt and Catch Fire*, celebrated artist Ian J. Culbard, The New Dead Wardians, and Brink, comes a new monthly ongoing series. Everything is a truly bizarre story about the most horrifying pursuit of happiness you've ever read. So, I mean, like, even from the beginning, like, as soon as you look at the front cover, it has this kind of, like, insidious 1940s, circa 1950s, like, advertising thing going on. Like, that's the aesthetic. Like, you look at it and you feel like you are looking at a poster advertising a vacuum cleaner or something from the 50s. That's exactly what I get from it straight away. And what I can say this book is actually about, it is about demonic capitalism. Demonic consumerism and demonic capitalism. Yeah, so capitalism, basically. Yeah, I mean, let's drop the demonic bit, because capitalism is capitalism, and we already know. But yeah, I mean, like, it's this wonderful retro style art that feels like a veneer over some kind of hideous truth, and it does actually work perfect for the subject matter here. And there's something really insidious and something really weird going on in the background of this mall, and like, there's something really Ice Cream Man about the whole thing, which I think is what drew me in more than anything else. The fact that it has that kind of, well, I want to say parasite below the surface, but what I'm really thinking about is if you've got, like, you've got something under your skin and it's just itchy, and you keep scratching and scratching and scratching, and then maybe some bugs crawl out. Like, that kind of, like, I don't know, like, that's how I feel reading this. That's what I feel like I'm looking at. I feel like if I touch the pages too much, ants are going to come out or something, you know, like, that's like this kind of, like, thin veneer, like, pasting over something truly horrific and writhing and roiling underneath. And that's, I think, is the impression they're trying to give. Like, they're drawing you in with the promise of all these perfect products and these things that are going to make your life better and whatever else. But at the end, it's all, maybe they'll have your soul or something, I guess, is the idea I'm getting. It's kind of like, in the tradition of things like They Live, maybe. It's like that sort of vibe going on.
See, I didn't really get that sense of, like, the itchy, seedy underbelly thing. I got more of a, like, a moodily, lonely, sort of distressingly cryptic Tarsum Singh movie by way of 70s consumerism, where it's channeling, like, the loneliest you've ever felt watching QVC at 3 a.m. because you can't go to sleep and there's nothing else to do.
Maybe there's a bit of that in there.
Yeah, and I think that's what I got from it. This, like, this crushing weight of it, promising you everything, but there being nothing there for you. I don't have, like, that itchy insect feeling that I get from Ice Cream Man, because there's not as much like overt like Cthulhu sort of like insecty vibe from it. It's interesting that you got that from this, because I got something very different, which is just sad and lonely more than anything else. Especially with this opening where it focuses on this woman who seemingly is giving like CPR to somebody, and then sort of, I think, goes into a fugue state, and we see her at various stages later on in her life, like doing other things. And I didn't spend enough time piecing together all the puzzle pieces, but there's something like very holistic about the, I don't know, just the drama that's unfolding, and I don't feel like they've given us the full picture yet. But I'm really drawn into like the mysterious vibe of this piece.
No, I like the thing I was getting from it. It's hard for me to. I've been trying to put this into words like all fucking day. So yes, it has a lot of the Ice Cream Man thing going on, a lot of the Ice Cream Man vibe, like the seedy underbelly, the itchy thing below the surface of suburbia, like the darkness and the mold and the tainted whatever beneath the veneer that everything and everyone puts on, like the shiny smile that you'll see, the advertising and whatever else. But it's also the fact that like this new mall is here and the whole town is worshipping this thing. And they're all queuing up and they're all fighting and they can't wait. They're fighting to get inside. They can't wait to get inside and start buying. They just want to buy stuff. And it just feels like some kind of like for that I'm getting like some kind of false prophet vibe. Like, you know, like this kind of like thing where it something is being promised to these guys and it's like, but we want your soul in return, you know? And that's where I'm at with that. And it's like this new thing has appeared, and possibly appeared overnight, and it's opening on the fringe of the town, and it's got the whole town in its thrall already. And it's like they're just feeding off the town slowly. Like I can imagine, like we're probably going to see this whatever this thing is going to be feeding off these people. It's going to be feeding on their souls. It's going to be feeding on their consumerism, and using them to nourish itself. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe the mall is alive. Maybe the mall is the living thing. Maybe the mall came to this town under the guise of a mall, like a kind of a mimic. You know, like a mimic in D&D terms, where it pretends to be a chest and it lures you in with the promise of treasure and then bites your fucking face off or whatever. Like that kind of thing. And it's like this whole like consumerist ideal of the 50s and whatever that it's designed after. And that's the artwork as well. It has that about it. Like it really does. And also the idea throughout the book of pushing the ideal and selling the dream, which I always thought was something super insidious and super weird. Like if you've ever worked in retail, in sales, right? And one of the things they'll teach you is to sell somebody the picture. Or paint the picture for them. Be like, so you're sitting at home and you've got your brand new TV that you want to buy from me today. And you know, the kids are sitting around watching the films on the brand new TV that you're going to buy from me today. You know, you give it that kind of like, you paint the picture. You paint them in the picture with, look how better this is. Look how much better this is going to make your life. You know, like you are taught to sell people on the dream by painting a picture. And I feel like that's like fucking intrusive. Like we know what you want. And I feel like that this is what this book is getting at as well. Like the weirdness of walking into a shop and having someone stand in front of you with a false as fuck cheesy grin and try to sell you something. Like when they're trying to sell you a product, and it's almost like they're trying to reach inside your mind and put a picture there of you enjoying your life with this product. And I've always thought that's a little bit weird and a little bit creepy when I thought about it in that way. And even when I've worked in retail, and I've been taught this as a sales technique to, like, you know, to try and get people to buy things, this is a little bit creepy to try and, like, I don't know if you guys have the same thoughts as me, or if I'm just crazy and destined to die as a hobo or something.
No, I've been on both sides of it, and it is creepy.
Yeah.
It's funny because I'm really not getting that same, like, I think I'm meeting you halfway, because I don't really have the hidden undergrowth thing, but that sort of the sinister promise that's being sold to you. I definitely get from this. Like I felt more of a matter of fact magical realism in that Murakami sense, where everything's like really there on the face of it. I feel like there isn't much hiding underneath beyond the fact that this is the world it's presented. This is exactly what they're selling you, and they're not trying to hide any of it. It's like right there in big, bright red letters, and that's creepy in its own way. That's the way that I interpreted it.
No, but it's like, you need this, 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 over and over again in the back of your head, maybe. And like even parts of the book, like there's a page where it does like what I call the bad music thing that Ice Cream Man does. And like it's a split of panels, and it's like this woman from the opening of the book, she kind of pulls up outside the mall, and then she has this kind of experience where this thing gets in her head, and there's music, but and it's all red and blue, and there's music, and it's just like,
that is a great set of panels.
Yeah. And
especially the page before it, where like you see her drive up to the mall, and you see like the red slogan of everything presented in different ways from different points of view, just surrounding her. Like it zooms in and out, and reflected in her car window, and reflected in her glasses, and just like spread across the top in reverse lettering. And stuff.
Like the hum of the neon from the sign of the mall is a specific frequency,
like a trance
designed to get you to buy a Dyson vacuum cleaner.
See, it's funny because I know that this is obviously part of the main theme, part of the main story, and it's centered around that. But that's not what really resonated with me with this issue. What got me was all the fringe stuff around it.
Yeah. So
all the stuff to do with all the different characters and their different routines. It has that classic ensemble setup where we're introduced to a bunch of characters in media res, just going about their life. We're not really given any true contextual backstory to them, apart from a couple panels with the woman who we were just talking about. But otherwise, it's darted all around town, and then these characters interact at various different stages throughout. So one, I love that stuff anyway, because I love where we have disparate characters meeting up and connecting in different ways in different places, because it makes the place feel living and breathing. But also, I found that stuff to be quite compelling, like when the two managers meet, and they have that sort of weird meeting in the middle of all of it, where he's the city manager, and he's like taking things in, and Shirley, the store manager, who we've seen throughout the book, who is almost this scary automaton-esque character who you can just imagine her
Stepford store managers.
It's like a charming but dead voice. Like there's a lot of the panels she has this sort of dead behind the eyes look, but not in a terrifying way if you're looking for it, but in a way that is just this blank state of cheer and charm, and hey, how are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Do you want to come in and take a look type thing?
Do you know what I've got to do now? I've got to write a fanfic that ends in a Lady in the Tramp scene with her and the Ice Cream Man, and instead of a piece of spaghetti, it's a fucking millipede or something.
A millipede?
What the fuck?
Well, like Shirley and Rick from Ice Cream Man, like they, you know what? I reckon they are actually inhabiting the same world, and I reckon she comes home from work and like her and Rick are a married couple or some shit in hell or wherever.
It's definitely a thing. It's like that's your Greg headcanon.
I ship it. I ship it.
Comic universe. But yeah, like she just has this blank stare charm, and I really love the sort of conversation, and then she ends it where he's like talking about his bug problem, and she's like, probably because you're so sweet. And I remember reading that and thinking like, ooh. And then it's great how it
it comes back later on.
Later on,
yeah.
It comes back in a great way where he remembers it, and there's almost like this, not just like, oh hey, there's more just like, ugh. It's a very like anime set of panels, and the way they do the callback is like it's like a close up on her mouth as she's saying it again, like probably because you're so sweet, and it's like ding, it's very anime manga-esque.
Well, yeah, like there's a whole panel devoted to him enjoying that sentence. So,
but it's not even enjoying. It's like it's one of those weird things where like something's stuck in your head. It's not like reliving something for fun. It's like something stuck in your head, and it's one of those like passive obsessions where it's just this ringing bell in your head. And I thought it conveys that really well. And I thought those things like say that the sequence in the park with the fire, or like the stereo salesman guy and him popping up. There's this unsettling edge, and I hate to make the comparison because it's always used lazily, and this one is very tangential. But there's like a Twin Peaks season 3 type feel in terms of the ancillary characters around the town, and how they're going about their emotions,
totally,
and how they're interacting, but how sort of the main thrust and core of what's going on, they are like bit players, or they're sort of in the stream being pulled along, but they're still doing their things. Like, no spoilers for this, but there's a storyline involving like the golden shovels, and that gave me a big vibe in this book.
The golden shovels.
That, like you said, automaton. It feels like everybody's sort of working on clockwork, and you're just waiting for them all to like click into place.
Yeah, definitely, most definitely.
And there's an ad at the very back, which is basically like a job advertisement, like, now hiring clerks, customer service, custodial, warehouse, and security. It's a bunch of people in the everything uniform jumping in the air, and they're in the sky. It's like, no experience necessary, great wages, fun work, be a part of everything, be a part of this. And I've seen that advert many times when I've been looking for work and stuff, and it just it just hits the nail on the head for me with that kind of stuff. Like, this is, I mean, even the first few pages of the book are basically a catalogue, aren't they? The first page, even. So you get the first page is basically a catalogue, like something out of a catalogue, like just like a fishing reel, and something to do with slacks, and a couple wearing some very stylish looking clothes, and it's just like an advert for everything, like an advert for them all.
What is it about malls that people are obsessed with them again? Like,
well,
people who their formative years were in their 80s, it feels having this nostalgia, but it's from the thing of like, it was this scary, evil place, wasn't it?
Well, I think it's more like, I mean, there's the nostalgia, like you say, like we're coming back around to this stuff again. We're starting to revisit things that we enjoyed back in the 80s and the early 90s and whatever. This is like a thing that's back in vogue again now. These kind of stories are coming back around. People look for this stuff, don't they? They go looking for, but also, and I enjoy these stories. You know, I enjoy this style of horror and these types of things. But also the fact that the mall has always and always will be an insidious thing. It's just a huge lump, like something that just a growth, isn't it? It's like a huge thing that just appears, like. Maybe just out of town. Like in Leicester, we don't necessarily have a mall just outside of town, but we have Foss Park Shopping Centre, and it kind of draws everyone to it.
Like it has, as you've made motions to earlier, it has this like religious quality, like this temple that people go to regularly to commune in some way, or to better themselves, but through consumerism.
And you have a ritual associated with it, don't you? Like, the ritual is you go to the shopping centre, or you go to the mall, like, and you go there on a Saturday and you might not even buy anything. It's like you're almost just going just to pay homage to it, kind of thing. So yeah, it does have this scary religious quality, and we are almost worshipping consumerism by going there, like the church of consumerism. Like I mentioned that when I talked about the comic The Mall, when we talked about this a few episodes ago. But what were you going to say, Ray? Sorry, I interrupted you.
I know, I was going to say that it's like this renaissance with like bringing up malls in popular media now. I think because back in the 80s, if you needed to be sold in the concept of like joyful consumerism to begin with, it was like a multi-tiered sales pitch. Like if you wanted to buy the things, you had to be sold on the idea of going to the mall anyway. So you had to be sold on this vibe of like going there and enjoying the entire experience, which I think is a very American thing. I don't know if I necessarily felt it myself growing up, but I think that's why it's coming back now, because everyone's sort of pushing it back against that ideal. And I don't know, plus there's something about this 70s, 80s aesthetic with like this clothing and these relaxing slacks and that whole lettering, which is, I don't know, like you said, if you're being sold it on a constant basis, you end up internalizing it, and there's just something sinister about it.
What was I like repeating a mantra over and over again, and then like I guess if you, yeah. So it almost like it becomes like a mantra, doesn't it? And then it becomes a thing, and I don't know where I'm going. I know where I'm going with that thought, but none of you guys do, so I'll just end it there, because I'm just...
Well, it's like a thing where the ad is sort of a call to prayer, and it's... especially back then, and as Rahul was saying, its importance in like American society, because it feels sort of not the heart, but like the central nervous system maybe of like a town's consciousness, and I think that like I say with a lot of these number ones, this is a number one where the hook and stuff is great, but even like I did with Twin Peaks Season 3, I let episodes build up before I started it. And this is a classic where I would like a few issues afterwards to continue. Not because I feel like, I don't know, left in the dark or something like that, but more because I feel like I feel like this is another one where a blurb will tell me more about the story than the first issue does. And I want to spend some time there more than the first issue. I'd like to spend 3 to 4 issues soaking up what the book is delivering.
I mean, like, I'm impatient, so I bought this as a single issue, but I kind of wish I hadn't, and I just bought it as a trade.
I mean, I'd be happy if it never goes into any of the backstory. I just want more of this mood, but I want a whole book of it.
Yeah, because I think this is, like, in terms of the Ace Comicals team, like me and Rahul, a team, we don't need to know how it's happening. And
let the mystery be, right?
Greg is team, I need to know the nuts and bolts. And I would be happy if it's just 12 issues of, like I was saying, Twin Peaks Season 3, like 12 issues of the mall and Scary Stepford lady just imploding the town and everybody going nuts.
12 issues of Dougie Jones staring at a wall. No, so like, I mean, I want to know what it is about this mall that makes it so, like, I want to see like the weird ancient evil behind all this, because I'm assuming there's a weird ancient evil behind it, whether it's an extraterrestrial ancient evil or an ancient evil from deep below, or, you know, some other plane of existence, some alternate dimension, something that feeds on a specific part of the human psyche, or something that feeds on a specific feeling, or something, you know.
Yeah, well, whereas I'm hoping it's more abstract. Like, I don't want to see some 12-eyed alien or something, or like this multi-tentacled monster, just because I think that there's billions of things that we have with that.
Oh, no,
and when we get to that stage where it's like, oh, it's this space demon who's warping everyone's minds from 12,000 years ago, things kind of lose me a bit, because, like, if the mystery and the journey these characters go on. If their minds are being turned inside out, I want the horror and evil to be like supernatural, but like internal supernatural.
Yeah.
I don't want like some demon to come on screen and start talking.
See, I'm not getting at a demon or a 12,000-year-old space space entity or something. Yeah. what I'm getting at is something a little bit more abstract actually, and that's what I was going for. Like the abstract
like
idea
God or something
of a force that manifests itself as the pinnacle of desire and feeds on your contentment, or feeds on like something like that is like some kind of like some kind of force that has always been and always will be, some abstract idea like God or demon or otherworldly being or something from another plane of existence, maybe that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, I like it. Do you not think it's got a little bit of Stephen King about it as well?
I mean, what doesn't?
Yeah.
And also, if you look at the quote by Christopher Cantwell at the very end, it does say, what if the Everything Store was the Overlook Hotel, and what if you had The Shining? Like, that's the premise.
Yeah. So, there we go. So, that is everything about a comic called Everything. Your full creative team for Everything is Christopher Cantwell is your writer, INJ Colbard is your artist, Steve Wands is your letterer, it's Burger Books, which is Dark Horse. So give it a look. I fully recommend it. I mean, the artwork in there is gorgeous for starters, and if you like Ice Cream Man, you'll enjoy this. And obviously, I think this is going to be something that I'm going to maybe it's not as because Ice Cream Man kind of has this anthology feel about it, and maybe this isn't going to have that. I can feel that this isn't going to have that, but it's going to be, I think, in the same kind of category for me as Ice Cream Man as it goes on. And I'm really into this. So, final comic on the list then, guys. I guess that is now time for American Born Chinese.
Yes, American Born Chinese, which is the Eisner Award-winning comic that was had the writing and art done by Jean Luen Yang and the colours done by Lark Pian. And it was published on First Second Books. So the rough, dirty synopsis of this book is it's a triptych-style story with one part focusing on the fabled Monkey King from the Journey to the West fable. Another part focuses on the coming of age of a first-generation Chinese-American middle schooler named Jin Wang. And the last part, or the third part, focuses on a white American teen named Danny, whose walking, talking, stereotype Chinese cousin, Chin Ki, comes to visit and embarrasses him at school, but in life in general. And like, top level, so this book came out in 2006. And it was a book that I, like a graphic novel I'd hear about for years and years and years, and it was on my list forever. And then I read it way back when, and it's been a book that I wanted to talk about on the cast for a while. But then rereading it, in the run-up to doing this episode, I was like worried, because I was like, oh yeah, like that came out last decade. Like, I don't know how this will hold up at all. But what's shocking reading it and sad in ways is that it captures mundane, everyday racism, the craving of assimilation for like minorities, the self-loathing that comes with that, and the survival that it comes with being one of a few. And it's sadly very like it still rings true, and it's still something that hasn't aged badly, because it's still a big reality in terms of how people relate to general Western culture and a lot of things that come with it. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cool and like interesting ideas that are brought up here, and just the overarching theme and the way the stories work as part of like the same theme, which is this idea of like self-acceptance and being content with your history and your heritage, but it's not this thing of shunning the outside world type thing, but it's about trying to hold on to your identity even when it's trying to be squashed away from you. I mean, Rahul, you read this one. What did you think?
I did. I really love this. One of the questions I wanted to ask was, I don't know if you guys have this, but whenever something comes out in popular media that isn't either white American or white English, Asians, my type of Asians, Indians, onto it. So stuff like Crazy Rich Asians, every Indian family that I know loved it. Like my parents loved it, because anything that is expressing a different way of living life than just the way that American or English media presents to you is something we can latch onto, even if it's not, there's not 100% overlap. Obviously, there won't be, in the cultures that are presented. The mere fact that it's different is something you can hold on to. So stuff like Fresh Off the Boat, stuff like this book, stuff like Crazy Rich Asians, stuff like One Day at a Time. There's always something really resonant about it, and I really felt that with this book, because there's so many things that, like in Jin Wang's story, that even though it's not part of my heritage, not part of my culture, I can feel an overlap in the same sense of like the same sense of self-loathing and the same sense of feeling othered and feeling lonely because of what you have in your history and wanting to run away from it, but also reaching a point where you kind of want to embrace it, but also feel like it's too late because you've let go of it too much too early, all of that kind of stuff. I don't know if you guys have those kind of experiences with these kind of stories.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's part of the reason I picked this book. My own history of stuff like that is that I'm not. I don't really have the sort of first gen immigrant experience, even though my dad wasn't born here. But it's a very like. So my coming of age is very different from this character, because I was not othered in the same sort of way. But there's so many similarities in terms of the internal dread and the just the mess of trying to survive with that. And it's odd, because I think a lot of my touchstones, which are like connected with this book, because I grew up in like Southeast London, it wasn't a case where I was the only it wasn't even the case that I was the only like black guy of like West Indian descent, because there was loads. But it, like, to narrow it even down to that degree, there was loads. But it was more, I think, that I experienced more when I ended up in more predominantly white spaces. Like when I went to a different sixth form college from everybody, and then eventually like university. And it's weird because I was obviously older than the character here, but there's a lot of the like same compulsions, even though the details are very different. But yeah, going back to your thing about latching on to media that is different from what we're always delivered. Definitely, like since quite like a young age, there's always when I would see something that was different and featured like predominantly people, but from somewhere else. Like, and often it was Asia, often it was Japanese, Chinese media for the most part, but then it extended to around the world, to Brazilian media, to Indian media, and beyond. That there is it like, I think you like you said, secondhand enjoyment type thing, where you're getting to see a culture that's not yours, but also not the same culture that's been imposed on you, and you're seeing how other people. For me, it's the case of like seeing how other people navigate the rat race in a way.
A sense of relief knowing that other minorities go through the same thing, and if anything, that makes you the majority. There's something really comforting about that. And the thing with this book in particular, I think, is because compared to a lot of other media where you're just, again, secondhand enjoying the way that other people live and feeling a connection to it, this book in particular has some really strong, overt and also subtle themes that are woven into the book, and it's trying to send a real message, I think. And first and foremost being, you can become anything you want if you forfeit your soul. I think that's the most overt message delivered right at the start of this book. I'm wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
Me or
either of you. I was talking to you.
Well, I was gonna chime in about what you were saying earlier, in the fact that I can't really speak from the same place as you guys. Like I haven't had any of those experiences because I'm a white guy living in England, you know? Like books like this are usually more of a learning moment for me.
Yeah, so what kind of things did you get from this experience?
Well,
what did you read into it?
It's just like I could read a book like this and I can read a story like this, and it's kind of like for me, it's a learning moment, and it just helps with my awareness of how it is to grow up as part of another culture in Western society or something like that, and how sometimes like maybe I've been insensitive without even realizing it, and things and that kind of thing. Like it just helps with it helps with my awareness, and it just helps me to understand what it's like, and that's the kind of thing that I usually get from it. And that's exactly what I got from this. I got like an understanding and a awareness of what it's like to experience that, and because I have had friends growing up from other cultures, and friends like from, you know, families that have come from other parts of the world and things like that, like first generation, like kids of immigrants and things like that. And I've had friends like that, and I've always been there, like from the outside, watching the way that they've dealt with things, and like seeing what they've experienced in terms of racism and everything else, like hearing people calling things and things like that. And I've always felt, but I've never really like seen it through their eyes, and I think that's what this comic helps me to do. Like things like this, it just helps me with my awareness a bit and helps me understand.
Yeah, like I think the way it's set out is really good, because it's not a book written to be a sort of preachy text. Instead, it's written from a viewpoint of experience and truth. And I think that's what makes it universally empathetic to begin with. But then the readers can also bring their own experiences to it, as well as the knowledge of like day to day. And I think that the structure it uses, where it's these three different types of story. One's like a fantasy mythic story. One's like a very like down to earth, everyday coming of age tale, and the other one is this nightmare hellscape where you're inside a sitcom. And the way it has the canned laughter at the bottom of each of those panels is superb. And like I want to dig into each of the stories a bit more, but like there's some like panels or pages here which are really brutal, when and really resonant. So like in the story with the coming of age story, so you have Jin, who's ostensibly our lead character, and he is like he starts off as like the new guy to school. They move to San Francisco, and he's like it's like him, and then there's a Japanese girl, Susie, and there's just brutal parts there where he's there and he's like, oh, there's another Asian. It's like, I don't want to be singled out. And it's like, I can't remember the exact line because I'm nowhere near the page but like, it's something like, I don't want to have anything to do with it. I will never talk to her. Like, I want to stay completely away from it because like, it's that thing. It's like, I don't, when we're together, we're more visibly different. And it's like, I don't want to be the person who gets all the typical like racist jokes coming at me. It's like, I want to assimilate. I want to be just Jin, or I want to be invisible. And it's really brutal because like what you could see there is like an ally straight away, which I think like as an adult you do. Like you walk into a room and you're like, if it's a setting where you just don't feel comfortable and you feel sort of not either impostery or like I'm out of my depth there, but then you see someone else who is similar to you in some way, then it's your icebreaker, even if you don't talk to that person, because it's like, okay, I'm not alone here type thing. And I think that's a hard thing to understand, but I think if you dial it back out of like ethnicity, it's easier to understand. If, for instance, it's not crazy for me to hear if someone is like a woman and is stuck around loads of male-only spaces and then sees another woman. Like, I think that you're going to have, even if it's superficial, some sort of connection there where you're not the only one, and there's a high chance that you're having similar experiences, and that's a bondable moment. And especially in the war zone, which is like school, and they're like in middle school, so not even in high school yet. It's a saddening moment, but like the way they progress that through that storyline. So, like a Taiwanese student who is comes straight from Taiwan, Wei Chen, comes to the school, and Wei Chen, because they are a new immigrant, they don't have the full grasp of English yet, and obviously have no allies or friends there. And like in an early bit, Wei Chen goes to Jin as seeing like, oh, there's another person who's like me in some way. And to begin with, like, Jin wants no part of it, and that is really sad especially because he points towards these like bullies who've been horrible to him and says like, oh, those are my friends over there. And it's like, it's awful. It's really awful to read some of these bits because you just it feels so real. It feels so real, and not to just keep quoting like pages, but I think what it is. I mean, there's so many bits which are just the panels themselves speak so much, because I mean, a lot of the chatter we've going into this thing has been about like like what we've brought to it from our own experiences. But just like a panel where you have the three Asian characters, Jin, Wei Chen, and Susie, who's Japanese, and they're all laughing and having fun, and you just know in that moment they're all together, like they're in their world, and they're like they're mocking Jin, but in a fun, playful way. And then these two racist douchebags walk by and say a couple of slur jokes, and the panels after that are so devastating because they're wordless. No one like shouts back, "Shut up" or anything like that. Instead, all three of them are like, "Oh yeah, we're Asian in America."
Yeah, and the panels linger, like the hurt would linger. Yeah, I thought that was a really effective page.
Absolutely brutal. Yeah. Because, like, I've been in similar situations, but not in the same situation, but with the same level of deflation and like, oh yeah, I got too comfortable. It's like, oh, I got too comfortable around these people, and it's like it's an awful feeling. And I think that there's so many examples in the book, just even in that storyline, that are so like sharp and straight to the point, but in a non-soapboxy way. They just present the truth with so much detail, but with no exposition. And I think the book's really effective for that. And I think it's really good at shifting tones. And I think it's because the themes of the three stories all work together, that when it shifts over to, say, the Journey to the West storyline, which feels more metaphorical anyway, because of the setting and how larger in life it is, and how fabulistic it is. Even then, it's still kind of brutal as you're reading through the metaphor and connecting it to the overall like thesis of the book. And it is this I don't know, this like sad feeling of like that. I think it links to the never good enough type thing. And as part of that storyline, the Monkey King like learns all these like cool techniques and studies and meditates all day to sort of transform himself to something different, something beyond. And what I really like in those scenes in particular is how the character designs of all the different Journey to the West characters and some of the other like Chinese legend characters are displayed. There's this nice sort of colourful, vibrant look, and because it's a lot of animal gods, they all have these cool designs which are based on, like, if you look and see like the traditional designs, they're based on that, but they're made a bit more cartoony, for lack of a better word, but in a way that fits the look and the mise en scène of the overall look of that portion of the story. And I think it's just really good. And I think that the structure doesn't work as well as we get towards the end, and things converge a little bit. But I think what works is the theme, and I think that the way the theme of the story lands is more. It feels better than how the narrative lands, for lack of better English.
No, I think I agree with that. Yeah. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, like I know being monologuing, and I'll vacate the seat slightly because I want to hear a bit more about what you guys have to say. But I do want to touch on the Danny portion of the book, because, like I said, that is like surrealistic and nightmarish, because you're in this living sitcom, and you have this stereotype incarnate character who is pure loathsome caricature, who speaks in like the high pitch English with like the which is like overall Asian stereotype, which is like mixing L's and R's, has like super like squinty eyes and buck teeth, and it's is wearing like the like old style Chinese outfits that you'd see in like older Hollywood movies. Has the hair in the sort of Q style, and it's
like that aggressively racist coolie stereotype.
Yeah, and it's monstrous, but like it's layered, because on top of that you have sort of newer Asian stereotypes overlaid onto that, like the model minority and how the character is overtly intelligent at everything.
Yeah, like hyper competent despite being disgusting at the same time.
And then you've got the whole like bad singing thing, which if you remember, like last decade in American Idol, you had is it William Hung, who is basically all over the internet for his rendition of I think it was Ricky Martin as well. I can't remember, but like there's a lot of that stuff, and like newer stereotype is overlaid onto that character. And yeah, it I think it works so well because I think it's like a splash of like water, like ice cold water to the face, and that's me saying that as someone who is not Asian, like Asian American or Asian in any sense, where like those aren't the stereotypes used to stab me. But like, it's still quite jarring and shock when the character first comes up, and like, it's weird because I could see people reading this and like not laughing in an evil way, like where they're fully not understanding the point of the book, but laughing in a way of like, oh, this is so ridiculous, haha. And it's like, I don't think it's so over the top and dark that I don't even think that that's an element to be read. I think I read an interview somewhere with the author where they're saying that at comic conventions, like one of his regrets is that he would have made the character look a bit more grotesque because like people were saying, oh, I want to get a t-shirt on there, and it's like, God, yeah, and to say that to the author as well, like, God, like, man, people are a trip. But like, yeah, like there's so many layers there, and the way how the character is sort of this nightmarish shadow or familiar following around the Danny character, and like this reminder, this like fear, this like everything that he's like bottled up and pushed away and rejected as in trying to assimilate and being more Western and to a degree being more white and like pushing away Asian heritage. You have that like this dark specter following him and just being all around his life and ruining his life every year. It is I know it's a really compelling like horror story to a degree.
But like ruining his life in a way of his own design, because there's a point where he's talking to the girl he has a crush on, and his interpretation of her rejection of him when he asked to be something more than friends is to place the blame on his cousin, and like not even having an understanding of why he's doing that, what he's internalized about his hatred of his cousin and that aspect of his, his family or whatever it is in that book. Like it's so interesting because he just doesn't want to interrogate it, and he's completely blind to it. And there's a lot going on in this book. I feel like we could talk about it for hours.
Yeah, I think we could, and it's hard to it's hard to speak of without going like point by point, because there's a lot of meat, a lot of depth there, but at the same time, it feels like you're doing a bit of a disservice in the more general way I've been speaking, even though I've been like monologuing for like 15 minutes. But I mean, yeah, overall, like what were you guys' takeaways, like Rahul and Greg?
Well, can I dial back to a moment that you talked about earlier, about when you mentioned bondable moments? Because one of my biggest takeaways from this book was how Jin has multiple foils throughout the story, even in the triptych of stories that we get. So you have that moment where his instinct is to reject Suzy Nakamura because he doesn't want to be seen as, like you were saying earlier, together they would be more visible. And I had this sense when I was reading it, I was like, I want him to be a better person. You were saying, as an adult, it's shocking because it's like, why would you reject the ally that you have in the room? But you can kind of understand it as a kid when it's all about survival and wanting not to stand out. But you want him to be a better person, and then that better person comes in the form of Wei Chen, who is, comes to him looking for a friend, looking for an ally, and Jin's initial reaction to him is also rejection, but they have this mutual connection, and Wei Chen has this affability that pushes through that barrier, and then we see time and time again Jin just fucking it up, making decisions, like really selfish choices, which jeopardize these connections that they've made. And it like part of the way that the story diverges and converges is on that point, I think, and it's really like sharply painful. Like the moments where he you can see that his aspirations lie in transforming into something else. Like he has this aspiration to the bullies, like he says to Wei Chen that those bullies are my friends, not realizing that he's internalized that self-hatred as well. And I feel like this theme overlaps with something that isn't quite as overt, which is something I noticed on my second read of the book, which is like a rejection of aggression, a rejection of like American aggression in particular, because there's parts where in the Danny storyline where he's so like visibly annoyed, he's visibly distressed at having Chinky in his life being like excelling at school, and so he takes this opportunity to like excel at sports, and he talks to this other jock guy who's seemingly friendly but acts with this like aggressive banter. Whereas in the Jin storyline we have a character like Wei Chen who, when he's trapped in he's trapped in this room with a girl that Jin likes, and he has this conversation where it's very loving and very like friendship first. And I feel like the book is subtly saying that this acceptance of love and acceptance of this companionship and friendship and brothership is more important than the aggressiveness of like Jin makes a friend early on, but it's forged of aggression. It's forged of this bully who says, be my friend or I'll beat you up,
Yeah.
And I feel like that was something that was subtly written into that story, and that really really affected me when all those themes were tied up towards the end.
Yeah, definitely. I'll hyper agree there. And I think that a big strength of this book is it really easily could have been a Gary Stu type character who is having lots of stuff inflicted on them, and then they make like generic mistakes as a fully realized character, but then they're more a victim of what's going on, like a bystander. And I think it's so interesting and just real and brutally truthful for it to be a case where this character is an awful circumstance, really, and is dealing with it the best they can, which happens to be terribly, and which is true for pretty much all of us at that age, no matter what our like background is. You're still developing, then you're still trying to get an idea of the sense of the world, and
well, yeah, because that's the thing. Like when I said earlier, I was imploring Jin to be a better person. What I really mean is I want to see him make better choices. And by that, I think I mean make less emotionally and traumatically driven choices, which is what the world is placing on him. Like you can kind of see the machination of why he makes these wrong, quote unquote, wrong, awful decisions that, alienate him from his history, alienate him from his sense of self. And it's painful to watch him go through that because it's preventable, but you also know exactly why he's doing it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Greg, did you have any?
Well, I've just been sitting listening to you guys, to be honest, because I mean, like I've already mentioned, I'm when I read this, it's like a learning moment for me, and I'm looking from the outside in because I don't have any experiences that I can equate to this. I don't have anything that... This isn't something that I've ever experienced or ever had to deal with. So for me, it's like a learning moment in learning that this is what other kids around me when I was that age have probably had to deal with, and also learning that maybe, you know, I've been insensitive without realizing it and things like that, and just
do you think that one, the Jin storyline works as a good coming of age story, and two, do you feel that the three stories work well together thematically and beyond?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I think they work well together and they fit well together to tell one story. And I like the way that it all converges and comes together, and how everything is eventually tied in and explained like three separate strings coming together to make one rope. And I do think that the Jin story does work as a good coming of age story as well. Actually, yeah, I do like that, because in reading that I can actually see. I mean, as much as, because I guess there's some universal elements there as well. Like, there are things in there that I can pick out and say, yes, you know, that's been me in middle school and things like that. But it's there. I mean, as much as there are some universal elements there as well that you can pick out, and I can see it as a good coming of age story. And there are things in there that I could like, yeah, definitely.
Well, it's really funny because like. We've dived deep into this like literary reading of the thing, like reading of the text, but there's also a bunch of moments which are like they must be drawn from life. They must be like semi-autobiographical, because there's such non sequiturs. Stuff like when he goes on a date and we have this clip of like, because he's been cycling up this hill to get to his date, he's all sweaty, and he has this memory of his cousin saying, just use the dry soap that you have, that they have in the bathrooms. And then he ends up, when he hugs his date, he leaves like soap bubbles from his armpit on her shoulder, and like it doesn't really add anything to the theme, but it's such a funny non sequitur that must have happened to him or somebody that he knows.
Semi-autobiographical, possibly.
Yeah, I'm sure it must have, because
it's quite specific, like isn't it? It's quite a specific thing to. But I mean, like, it's quite a specific situation. But the other things as well that, like, there's some really great like pages in this, like in the way that it uses the comic medium and things, like the page where he goes to sleep after hearing her say yes to him to go on a date.
Yeah.
I love that page with all the yeses and then the big yes. Yeah, that's great, and that is a really great representation of what that feels like, I think. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Like, there's some really good like techniques in this book, like sequential art techniques in general, and I do love the general style of the book. Like, I like this kind of like stark cartoon style that it has going on.
It's like no shading for the most part, and it's like block colors, which is like has this really like cool look to it.
Yeah, and especially for the monkey storyline, because it feels like an adventure story.
Yeah, and it's filled with like action and larger than life elements.
And some like light trippy moments, like where there's a moment where he's confronting God and like tries to out chase him, and the way it plays with the medium there is really interesting.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Like, I've spoiled some things in this discussion, but I'm refusing to mention exactly what that is.
Yeah, and I think as far as all of us have been speaking, like there's elements that we've spoken about out of context that I think that it's just hard to talk about it without doing so. And you could probably breadcrumb a tiny bit, but I don't think so. I think a lot of this book, especially because the way that it ends, I think it is like the story that the Monkey King is from. It's a journey, and it is a journey to the West, because that's what it is. Like growth and survival in America, and dealing with loud racism, but also the more devastating quiet racism, which is more common, and all that while also like trying to be a teenager in America or in the West, which is just a teenage in life. It's tough, no matter what you got going on. It's just those extra things are multipliers. Yeah,
being a teenager is hard. I can, and I can only imagine, like, or you know, from reading this book, I can only get a sense of how difficult it must have been for Jin. But yeah, no, I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good book, and I would recommend it to anyone. I think it's actually one of those things that I could say would be quite essential reading, maybe. As something,
I hadn't heard of this book, and I think it was a great recommendation from Leon. And I didn't realize until after I'd read it that it is actually part of the curriculum in America in some places. In some
really?
schools.
Yeah. Because I would have actually said it should be on a list somewhere as essential reading, and it should be something that I think more people should read this, just to get us, either to have something that lets them know that they're not alone. Maybe someone can read this and have, like, see a shared experience in it, or maybe someone could read this and learn from it.
Yeah, it'd be like an empathy machine. And that's the thing, like I was saying at the beginning, and like I say throughout, and like I say whenever we speak about like comics that have some sort of a social edge at the forefront, is that I know that for a portion of people hearing about the recommended those, even the most interested and progressive people will sometimes think, it's like work, or it's going to make me feel bad. And I always like to push back in that and be like, I don't think it's will cause you stuff like that more than reading the average book, like the two other comics that I spoke about this episode.
Yeah.
And I always think that while the elements that we focus on are important and structural to the book, but like we've made a big deal about, like the coming of age element on there is quite universal. And I think that regardless of who you are, what your background is, I think it is like Greg said, it's essential reading, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
I like the idea of somebody in Taiwan reading everything and going, "Ugh, another story about American consumerism."
Yeah. So I guess that wraps us up. We're at the bottom of the list now. That's all of it. That's everything. So are we moving on to the pull list now? Is that what we're doing? I think that's what we're doing.
It's time.
Let's do it.
It is time. So this episode is available from the 11th of September, and on the 11th of September, it's also New Comic Book Day, and a couple of things that I've picked from that day. I've only got two. I've got the Moon Knight Annual, #1. Now, I love me a bit of Moon Knight. Moon Knight battles Kang the Conqueror. Kang the Conqueror has found a way to rewrite history in his own image, but when the chance to settle an ancient grudge against the Egyptian god Khonshu tempts Kang, the process is interrupted and time and reality quickly go haywire. Now Khonshu's avatar, Moon Knight, must find a way to fix the time stream before Kang is able to complete his goal. But with time acting erratically, there's no telling where Moon Knight will end up or when. So I guess this is kind of like a standalone Moon Knight story that you could pick up. Just a little something that, like a standalone Marvel story about a cool Marvel character, Moon Knight, and Kang the Conqueror, a cool Marvel villain. Something that stood out to me because, I like me some Moon Knight, and I'm always happy for a bit of Moon Knight. Also, it's Cullen Bunn, who is your guy from Harrow County and other such books, Man of Black, that kind of stuff. Everything that I tend to rave about on this podcast. The next one on my list I picked up was Silver Surfer Black #4, which is one before penultimate. If you remember, this thing's only 5 issues long. And it's been a fantastic series so far. And if you haven't started reading it, why not? Maybe go back to one of our previous episodes. There's an episode we did called A Bead of Mercury in a Sea of Paint, which is my best shorthand description for the art in this book, because it is absolutely fucking gorgeous. And no other way to put it, in all honesty. So go pick up Silver Surfer Black. If you can find issue 1 anywhere, if you're that lucky, pick up issue 1. Maybe wait for the trade to come out now. I don't know. I'm just letting you know number 4's on sale, so you probably haven't got that much longer to wait if you are waiting for the trade, because there's only 5 of them. Ray, where are we with you for the 11th?
I've only got the one, and like I often do, I only picked it out on the strength of the cover. It's called Trees, 3 Fates. It's a new number 1 by Warren Ellis and Jason Howard. Something about a dead body appearing at the leg of a tree. That's good enough for me. It looks cool. It's like a silhouette of a dude walking along some train forest that looks like a skull.
Isn't he holding an axe?
Yeah, might well be. Sure.
Yeah. So, like, judging books by their covers, Ray, have I taught you nothing on here?
I don't listen to you, Greg.
No, I know. I'm just, yeah, being facetious. So, the following week is the 18th, and a couple that I picked out from there, I picked up something called You Are Obsolete. And,
that was great.
Yeah, it's because the book is literally telling me I'm obsolete. Mm-hmm. So, You Are Obsolete. And it's got this picture of this creepy blonde kid with a smartphone, and it is really, really creepy, and she has this, like, ultra weird smile, and I don't like it, and it's going to keep me up tonight. And it's this fucking fisheye thing going on as well, and it's just like Children of the Corn meets The Omen and a bunch of other weird shit. A disgraced journalist is called to cover a mysterious story on an isolated European island. As she investigates, she discovers the children have taken control and are somehow killing off all adults by their 40th birthdays. Now she must discover the truth behind the killings while staying on the good side of the children's harsh leader, or she's next.
Yeah, it's basically the opposite of Something is Killing the Children, I think. Because Something's killing the 40-year-olds.
I don't know, man. It just sounds brilliant, like the whole premise, and kind of want it. And it's something to do with technology by the looks of it, because there's a lot of, like, both of the covers that I can see here have got smartphones, like, featured, or some kind of screen featured. I don't know if this is something to do with people that, like, as soon as you get to a certain age, you forget how to operate shit. I don't know. Like, I always think of myself as quite tech savvy, and I like to think I might remain quite tech savvy, but I can feel that maybe by the age of 40 or something, like, something just the switch just gets flipped in my head, and I'm going to be asking my kids how to do stuff with my reading glasses perched on my nose or something. And it's like, yeah, exactly. And maybe I don't want to experience that. Maybe I'd like to go to this European island where someone kills me before I'm 40. I don't know. But the other one I had was something called Steeple number 1. Now, I picked this out because it just, I don't know, it's just something about it just seems like ultra cool. And also the artwork on the cover, it's got like this Cartoon Network vibe going on. Like the Cartoon Network, cartoon stuff, Fairly Odd Parents, that kind of style. A supernatural tale of friendships, the devil, and moral grey areas. 2 women with wildly different worldviews become unlikely friends as they navigate the supernatural happenings in a sleepy coastal parish, and soon find themselves forced to choose sides in the war between good and evil, facing demons, curses, and a miniature rapture. And this is John Allison, Max Sarin, and Sarah Stern. So that is looking pretty good. One of the things I picked up on my list was Once and Future number 2, which we talked about on the previous episode, and Strayed number 2, which we also talked about in the previous episode. Both of them are very good books. Once and Future 2 is this really cool, like, subversion of Arthurian legend, which is quite fun. And Strayed is cats. Not just any cats, intergalactic cats. Beautifully drawn intergalactic cats. That will melt your heart and at the same time save the universe. And it was fantastic. So go back to our previous episode, The Silver Surfer with Ears and a Tail, and give that a listen, because that will tell you more about Strayed and Once and Future. And the second issue of those are out on the 18th. So you got time to catch up. If one is still on the shelves, then grab it. Please do. Ray, where are we with you for the 18th?
I've only got a couple. Blade Runner 2019 number 3. Just a continuation of this storyline that I'm pretty invested in. Art's pretty cool, rank's pretty cool. It's by Michael Green and Andres Guinaldo. And then there's Napoleon Dynamite number 1. I have no real idea what it's about beyond it being Napoleon Dynamite in his senior year. But the cover sold me because it's the Vote for Pedro t-shirt, but instead of vote for, it's scrubbed out and it says impeach on top of it. So I get the feeling it's going to be topical, and I'm looking forward to that.
I'm surprised you didn't twig when I mentioned John Allison's name. Right?
I did, but it was too late to respond. But yes, anything by John Allison, I'll pick up.
Yeah, because that's exactly why I put it on this. I thought this has got to be Ray's jam. It's his Giant Days person. It's the Giant Days person.
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah,
he's great.
Yeah. So yeah, that is the pull list for the following 2 weeks, and I guess that wraps us up for this episode entirely. So that has been Ace Comicals episode number 71. You can find us at www.acecomicals.com, which is the hub for everything that we do, all the places you can find us. You'll find us on Twitter under Ace Comicals, where we're the most active. You'll find us on Facebook under Ace Comicals, Instagram under Ace Comicals. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Castbox, Castro, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, like your listening app of choice. I'm guessing we're available pretty much everywhere. And you can find me on Twitter under @Batto, that's BATTOU. Ray, where can we find you?
On Twitter @Monkeh, that's @MOONKEH.
And Leon, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter @Leon Everett.
You can get involved with the conversation with us on Twitter, @us, DM us, etc. You can also get involved in the conversation by sending an email off to acecomicals@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you, so please. Yeah, that wraps us up. That's Ace Comicals, over and out.